Okay, recording is started. I'll go mute and I'll go stop my video, but you can continue. It's all being recorded. Okay.
Thank you.
I can't hear anything, but I think you can start.
I think it's Abigail who is the program director. So
yeah, so Abigail.
Maybe she's shy today.
No, good morning, everybody. I believe that the DSG was supposed to start the program.
Oh,
hence
okay.
Quiet.
Abigail, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
SG, can you just confirm that you can hear me?
I can hear you, DSG.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. It's lovely to see everyone here today. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome everyone that is here and to thank you for actually taking the time to attend this virtual event that we are having as Sebo alumni. My name is Sibusiso Mahlangu, and I am the Deputy Secretary General of the Sebo Alumni Executive Committee, the EXCO. Before proceeding with the program, I'd just like to acknowledge just a few categories of people that are here with us today. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the EXCO of the Sebo alumni that is led by our president, Prudence Mathe. Thank you guys for making this event possible. I'd also like to acknowledge the Sebo luminary that is led by the founder and CEO of Sebo. The luminary is always available and present, and a present help to us as the Sebo alumni. Thank you for attending this event with us. I also take note that we are live on Facebook, and I would like to acknowledge all those people that are following us on the Facebook Live. And also, I'd like to acknowledge the panel, our panel for today's event. Not going to introduce them now, but I'd like to acknowledge that they are here with us today. Last, but certainly not least, I'd like to acknowledge the Sebo alumni, the members of the Sebo alumni who are with us today. This event is for you. I hope that you benefit from it, and I hope that you enjoy the event. I've just received a message from the event coordinator. The toilets are on the left and the refreshments are on the right. Please do not make a noise when you're using the facilities. All right. I'm going to take this time now and hand over to the hostess, Ms. Abigail Omuwele. Over to you, Abigail.
Good morning, everybody. As mentioned by DSG Mahlangu, my name is Abigail Omuwele, and I have the pleasure to serve as the Sebo Alumni Deputy President. I'm so excited to be with everyone this morning, and I'm even more humbled to be facilitating this session this morning. I'd like to take everyone through the program of the day and just share the rules of engagement governing this session so that it's available for everybody accordingly. Firstly, we're going to have just a short address, an emphasis on short, by our Sabo founder and CEO advocate Tyri. And then thereafter, we're going to proceed to have the introductions of the panelists, and this will be done by DSG Mahlangu. Subsequent to that, we'll open the floor to the Q&A session. Now, please note down your questions. When the session does open, you will be an opportunity to unmute yourself so that you'll be able to ask the relevant panelist your question. And also please note that I will be facilitating 3 Q&A sessions. So don't be discouraged if your question is not answered on the first round. We'll have 3 sessions and your questions will be answered. Now, after all 3 of these sessions, we will then have SG Nhlapo, who will facilitate the summation and closing of the session. Now, to just address the rules of engagement, please could we at all time keep our microphones muted so that the audio does not interrupt when someone else is speaking. And should you wish to engage, particularly during the Q&A session, you're welcome to use the raise your hand function. I believe that's under more options. You should find the tab that says raise your hand, and we will see you and obviously ask you to unmute yourself so that you may raise the questions that you have. You're more than welcome to leave your camera on. Actually, we encourage you to leave your camera on so that we can see your beautiful faces. And we just encourage engagement throughout the session. And we look forward to an insightful morning where we will all be sharing knowledge with each other and we'll be engaging with one another. So I want to take this moment to introduce an incredible force of a woman. Someone who has not only profoundly impacted my life, but the lives of many young aspirants and legal practitioners alike. Our very own Mbokodo, a visionary and passionate luminary who strives for a better society for all, a light that has shined in the paths of many and continues to lead through the values of and philosophies of Ubuntu, respect, and Zenzele. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Advocate Tyri.
Thank you so much. And I am just delighted and overjoyed to be in your company. And thank you for being here. And today, I know that today is a manifestation of African philosophy. It is a manifestation of what is my heart and what is really central to SABWEL as a foundation. This is the actualization of Ubuntu and Zenzele. Now, Ubuntu, if we know compassion and kindness, but think about synergy. Today, it's 1 + 1 = 11. That really is the golden thread of Ubuntu. All of us here today are putting our intellectual energy into this beautiful think tank, and we are going to walk away after that deeply enriched, because our Alumni Exco has put together such an extraordinary panel. I am delighted. I cannot wait to be nourished and draw from the experiences. And I'd like to say thank you for honoring us. Well done to our alumni and our Exco. And the second thread that I want to share with you, which I said is Zenzele. Halalala to our Exco, our president, our SG, our deputy SG, our deputy president, our project director, our academic officer, and everyone that comes together to stand up and do it for us. So, halalala, I am so in awe of everything you've achieved. And if I leave that, I would say thank you to our panelists, to everyone here today, because we are all manifesting Ubuntu and Zenzele. And I want to leave you with something that the president and I have shared. And I'm very honored to be guided by the president in many ways. And we shared the concept of the lotus flower. We had this discussion. And if you think about it, that's Zenzele. The lotus flower is to be at peace in muddy waters. Is that not Zenzele? When you stand up and do it for yourself. And in this time of crisis, in this time of a pandemic, that lotus flower in muddy waters blossoms and is at peace. And that is the highest objective in self, to reach that peace of mind. And I'd like to say that to everyone here today, to the audience, to everybody participating and helping us be this movement that we are, to the luminaries that contribute skills into the development of the next generation, and to that next generation for taking that development and taking it forward and impacting society and enriching us. So Ubuntu-Zenzele, African philosophy, igama lama nkosikazi Malibongwe. Thank you. Thank you.
SG?
Yes, ma'am, DP. Is it DSG that's supposed to? Yeah, it's DSG.
It's DSG, yes. Intro of the panelists, yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy President and Advocate Aisha, for that beautiful message. I'm going to take this time now to introduce our lovely panel. Drum roll, please. All right. The first panelist that I would like to introduce is Lebogang George. My introductions are in no particular order. Lebogang George is an attorney firm based in Sandton. It is a corporate and commercial law firm. If you can't clap your hands, there is a clap your hands function on Zoom. She is an admitted attorney of the High Court. She is currently working as a legal associate for TechVest Legal Advisory Services. We can also give a round of applause for Thabang. Last but not least, I would like to introduce to you Shanaz Mohammed. She's a civil luminary. She's a patent attorney. She is currently working and a partner of a leading law firm in the field of IP law, the firm Spoor and Fisher. We can also give a round of applause to Shanaz. Thank you, and over to you, Abigail.
Thank you, DSG. I'd like to ask the panelists for just 5 minutes, just briefly introducing themselves. And yeah, we just wanted to tell you that you're welcome today. Lebogang, would you like to go first?
Sure. I actually had a feeling that I was going to go first. Thank you very much for the invite. I am really excited to be here. This is such an amazing platform, and it's a much needed platform. I always love platforms that allow women to be celebrated and allow Black women to be celebrated and to share their achievements. And I think that we learn a lot from one another. We've never really arrived. We've never really know it all. We learn a lot from one another, and I'm really excited to learn from my fellow panelists and from those that are also participating and those that are listening. Thank you for having me, and I really look forward to this discussion. I'm very excited.
Thank you so much, Lebogang. We're so excited to have you and just all the knowledge that you're going to share with us today. And yes, looking forward to the Q&A. Please could we have Thabang next?
Yes, good morning. Well, yeah, we're still in the morning. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much to the Sabwell team, of which I'm an alumni of one of the programs. And I'm always honored to be invited to share a little bit of my journey so far into this profession, which I also think is part of purpose. And also I think just to also, exchange knowledge and experiences from, you know, and you'll all know that we have such, as Lebogang mentioned, such varied experiences and understandings, you know, from where we've practiced, but it's always great. And I think this is something really invaluable that we don't really see a lot in actual practice, you know, where there's a sense of mentorship and really just encouraging one another along in the respective journeys we're on. So yes, kudos to the Sabwell team. I'm so proud of what you guys have done and put together here, and I'm honored to be here.
Thank you so much, Thabang. We're so excited to have you as one of our own presenting this morning, and we look forward to learning so much from you as the day proceeds. Lastly, we'd like to call Luminary Shanaz to say a few words.
Thank you, Abigail. Good day to everyone, to Advocate Tari, founder and CEO, EXCO, President, Deputy President of Sabwell, fellow panelists, the luminaries, alumni, and our non-alumni. I'm delighted to be on the panel and be invited on the panel today, and to have this opportunity to exchange thoughts and experiences, and through that enrich our lives. So I'm very grateful for this opportunity to Sabwell. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for taking time out to be with us this morning and to share your knowledge. We have so much that we're going to learn from you, and yeah, we're very excited. So now I'm just going to take the opportunity to open up the floor for the Q&A. So if you have a question, you want to ask a question, please, I'm not too sure where the raise your hand tab is, but you're more than welcome to unmute yourself and ask the questions. The floor is open. Okay, while everybody's getting their questions ready, I have a few questions of my own. Let's start with Thabang. So, you know, with your bio and reading through that you are LLM candidate, and, you know, you're doing research around human rights and business, I think it's so incredible. You know, I just wanted to ask, you know, since you're doing your research on business and human rights in the mining sector, what changes in legislation, you know, have taken place in this area to better protect mine workers since, you know, the Marikana saga?
Sure, thanks, Abby. I'm not on mute, am I? Sometimes I'm going off and off, and then, all right, great. Yeah, so maybe just to take a step back and sort of indicate where my area of research is within business and human rights. I'm actually focusing more on the community stakeholders within the sort of community surrounding the mines, and particular focus looking at the women in those communities and what their participation level is in decision making, but specific around the social and labor plans, which is a very, first of all, it's a legally enforceable document. And it really has to do with the mine's sort of responsibility to contribute to development to surrounding communities. And unfortunately, we found so far in what little I have gathered, this is, yeah, it's a journey of perseverance, this LLM story. Yeah, but from the little that we've seen, essentially, women aren't participating at the levels that they should be, particularly community women, but yet you're finding that they're doing a lot of the sort of initiatives around building, development in those communities. They're the ones who are farming the land, whilst their husbands have gone into the mines to do the work. And this is a historical sort of issue also, you know, set up. But yet you sit in some of these community engagement sessions and you find that they're not participating at the level that they're meant to. And so really, that's sort of where the focus is for me. But of course, all of the elements that you've mentioned, Abby, around just what we're seeing in the mining context, I think it's a beautiful sort of micro study of a macro issue we're having in the country, right? Just to see how socioeconomic rights, how those really sort of, how do they play out? We have a constitution that speaks to meaningful engagement, sure, you know, from the part of the state to members of the public, but should corporates be also expected, and I think this is part of what I'm investigating, should corporates also be held to a standard of meaningful engagement when they are saying we are embarking on development projects? And by meaningful, we mean actual thorough consultation, actually getting the inputs of everybody who will be affected as they are meant to do. So yeah, I mean, look, legislative wise, you know, you still got legislation that just simply governs what sort of the mines are meant to do in respect of their internal operations. But as concerns the doorstep communities where they are participating and where they are actually impacting, there isn't sort of a broad covering of that. And I think it's kind of an investigation into that as well. You know, you've got the MPRDA, or the Minerals and Petroleum Resources Development Act, that governs the mining sector generally, and within that there's a mandate to develop a social and labor plan. But unfortunately, you will know from the news, a lot of the uproar that comes from the mining sector comes from the communities that surround those mines. And so we're wondering, they've got the legislation, but are we implementing what we're meant to implement really thoroughly? And if we did, would we see the problems we're currently seeing? So that's a little bit of sort of what I've gathered, Abby. And as I continue the journey, I'm hoping we could find ways to fine-tune certain things, and hopefully publish.
Oh, that's so incredible. And even just how, you know, the focus is not necessarily on the miners, but the mining community. And I find that a lot of that community is forgotten about because the focus has always been on the miners. So I think it's an incredible, it's incredible research that you're doing. Does anyone have a question that they'd like to ask?
I raised my hand.
Oh, yes. Advocate Tari.
Are you ready?
Yes.
May I proceed?
You may proceed, yes.
I have a question for our esteemed Leboga. Can you perhaps assist me a little bit? I'd like to understand, or just share your thinking, because this is your field. The GDPR covers personal data, really. So it's more on the human being. And South Africa's POPI is personal and corporate data. So we have a broader net for compliance. I've just been thinking about that. Do you see any, what is your thinking? Because that's a clear distinction. Here we have companies and their personal data will be subjected to POPI and they have the rights. So, and then the GDPR doesn't do that. Do you have any thoughts that come to mind that you can share with me? I'm thinking about it. I don't have clear conclusions yet, but it is like something I'm thinking about. I'd like to hear your thoughts.
Yes, certainly. I mean, that's been some of the criticisms that have been coming through regarding POPI. As much as POPI has tried to mirror the GDPR and tried to protect personal information the way GDPR would, it's much too broad and it's not as robust as GDPR. And there's been calls to try to restrict it and to make it less broad. But I think also because it took 7 years for Poppy to come around. Everyone is saying, so if we now start bringing these amendments, how long are we going to wait again? Because we're seeing data breaches happening, we're seeing cyber attacks happening, and we don't really have a legislation that's been protecting our personal data. So this is something that people have been saying, we need to make it narrower because it's too broad. And even if Poppy does come into effect, does it really have teeth as much as the GDPR does? Because the GDPR has a lot of teeth, but does Poppy have teeth? And we will see this next year, and we'll see that a lot of people are going to be getting away with a lot of breaches because there's not much teeth, and we just need to narrow down Poppy and make sure that it's narrower, it's thicker, and it's not a one size fits all. It needs to be, it needs to fit our context.
Thank you so much, Lebogang. I see we have a question in the chat. Sorry. We have a question in the chat from Nonopa, who's one of our alumni, and she's asking, how can we make contribution to what you're researching? Or how does one make a contribution to what you're researching?
I think it does say that the question is directed to Thabang.
Yes, to Thabang.
Okay, all right, great. Well, at this stage, I think I am still sort of in the foundational phases of it. A lot of the research that will be need to be done is on the ground in the field. So I think at most I've been asking people, you know, when you're working with communities, there's a whole bunch of ethical clearance matters, and one of which is making sure that you're also treating the people that you're about to go and engage with their, you know, respect and making them part of the process. So I've asked a few people to assist with providing me with translators. The area I'm going into is really, you know, a Tswana-based area. I'm Tswana, but I do not speak what my grandmother would consider the A-grade version of Setswana. So yeah, just reaching out to sort of various people who would know, and I will on my social platforms to say, look, if anyone does know someone who's able to translate questionnaires into Setswana, for example, that might be helpful, but I will indicate that, and I'm glad I've got the Sabwell team who's also willing to assist there. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Thabang, and thank you so much, Nonopa, for the question. I see that Lerato has raised her hand. Lerato, please could you unmute yourself?
Yes, I just did. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good morning, everyone. So Thabang, I'd like to just find out from you, in your research, are you also looking at what, I mean, first question, is there any litigation within the context of protection of human rights, especially the mine workers and the human rights of the mine workers as well as the community there? And if you have found something, what kind of cases do you hear of or have you come across? It would be interesting to know what the disputes are and if the courts are actually making the mining companies and all the other stakeholders accountable. Yeah, that's it. That's my question.
Thank you for the question. I think it came from Lerato. Hey, thank
you,
Lerato. Yeah, so as I indicated at the beginning, so I'm not really focusing too much on the plight of the mine workers. I also have to say that there are some things that I may not be permitted to say because the organization I work for does to some extent advise mining houses on the work. In fact, the research was inspired by sitting in a consultation, you know, but with community stakeholders. And so I can't really go into details with regards to what I've seen, you know, and who's who in terms of the parties. But what I can say a little bit about is there certainly has been. If you follow an organization attached to the Wits University called the Center for African Legal Studies, I think, CALS, they do a lot of they've done a lot of research around this area. In fact, they've got infographics, booklets, basically sort of just reducing to understandable, material, what data they've extracted from that area. And a lot of the guys they've represented are actually community stakeholders or members, as well as, thank you, Center for Applied Legal Studies. Thank you so much, Nonopa. Yes, and they do a lot of research in that area and have actually represented the communities as well as some mine workers in some of the matters there. But a lot of it has got to do with the conditions, conditions underground, conditions in the communities. In a little bit of what I've been involved in, that's certainly been the issue, is to say, look, we feel that we're not being adequately sort of covered in respect of what the mine has said they will do, to either develop or to improve conditions and standards. And I think, of course, the MPRDA and the regulations attached to it have done a lot to sort of fine-tune and tighten on those things. So if you look at it, I think even if you look at the quotas about female participation underground, for example, and making sure you've got everything ergonomically organized to support, having more women underground, for example, there is quite a lot that is being sort of put together legislatively, but it's about the implementation, and I think that's where a lot of the issues are arising.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you, Thabang, and also thank you, Lerato, for posing the question. We have a question from our DSG. Please, can you unmute yourself, DSG?
Thank you. My question is for Shanaz. I'm just trying to, I would like to know, and I'm sure some of our alumni would also like to know, some of the aspirant legal practitioners would just like to understand, what is a patent attorney? What are the qualifications? And what do they do? What is the day-to-day responsibilities or work of a patent attorney? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Perhaps I can start with just giving an idea of my journey and how I discovered that being a patent attorney was an option as a career. So my journey to law actually began indirectly, and I spent about 8 years at university, and gaining the knowledge and skills to equip myself for practice. And there are different ways of reaching that end route of being a patent attorney. I'll just elaborate on the one that I've taken and give you then different options that are available. So I completed a technical degree and learned about atoms and molecules and compounds and amino acids, proteins, and was in the lab running experiments, wearing my white lab coat, and other days I was venturing through the grounds of Nelson Mandela University, and which is a conservation area, and we'd then be learning about the environment and plants. And because we were also close to the coast, we'd have expeditions to the beach and explore the inhabitants of the ocean and the rocks. And it made for a wondrous learning ground for an impressionable mind. And that was really how I began gaining the tools and experience on the technical side of what I use in practice today. And then after gaining all those credits in my science degree, I then came at a crossroads and, was faced with one luminous sign saying that I could take the route through to science and do my honors, master's, PhD if I wish to. But then there was also the other sign in the road, which said, you know, I could possibly take up law as a career path. And then faced with much uncertainty on the law side, and with my disposition was, you know, I was reserved and very quiet, it wasn't an obvious choice to take up law. But taking up the science path was quite, there was quite a lot of certainty in that, into what your path would be. And so despite looking at you know, this weighing up the certainty and the uncertainty, I then chose to actually follow the path of law, not knowing what would be on the other side. And I then discovered through my exchange with lecturers and other students that I could actually merge my technical expertise with my law, and merging of those two disciplines then added up to having taking the path of a patent attorney. And so it was just by chance and stumbling upon this that I discovered that there was a career path for me in patent law and becoming a patent attorney. And it was, you know, it was filled with uncertainty, but there was great reward at the end. And so essentially, I couldn't have become a patent attorney without having a technical degree. And so I pursued it, and there were very few of us. In our class at university, there was just myself and another gentleman that had a technical degree and was then pursuing the law degree. So to come back to your original question then, the qualification that one needs really is a technical background together with a law degree. And how you pursue that, there are different options. I chose to do them you know, full-time at university. But today, most of our candidates that are pursuing patents as a career have got a technical degree, which they've completed, and then they've applied for articles. And while they're doing their articles, they are also doing their law degree. And there are special exams that they've got to write to become a patent attorney as well. So the candidates starting out have very little social life. Most of their time is spent in practice, learning what they need to in order to be a patent attorney or to do the work in practice. And then they're doing the exams, the law degree through UNISA, some of them. And then at the same time, they're doing another set of exams through the Patent Examination Board, which can span 3 to 4 years of your life together with while you're doing the UNISA exams. So those are really the backgrounds and the expertise that you need, the technical backgrounds and the skills that you need to acquire in order to qualify as a patent practitioner. Only once you have completed your law degree, then you are an attorney. You can be admitted to the High Court. And once you have completed your patent examinations, then you will be a patent practitioner. but you have to have completed your law degree in order to be the patent practitioner and the patent examinations. So it is a long journey for a patent attorney. It is seen as a specialist degree within law, and looking at it, you're dealing with an umbrella of fields under intellectual property, which range between patent law, design law, copyright, and trademarks. Now, there's another route that one can take where you don't have a technical degree and you actually pursue being a trademark practitioner, which still falls within the umbrella of IP, a very specialist field. And with that, you need a matriculant certificate, and your then you can start your trademark practitioner's exams, and you need a law degree. So that is minus a technical degree, and it's a lot less years that you've got to put in to reach the end of your journey. Then those are the qualifications really, and the layout of the field. Then you've asked the questions of what do we do and what does a patent practitioner do? So what our clients are really are inventors, and the reason you need the technical background is, and the technical background can be various, can be in the mechanical field, engineering field, in the science field. So there are a number of fields that one could look at, but you need to have that technical field in order to give you that linguistic ability and understanding when you are talking to your clients, because your clients are inventors. And they're going to come to you and say, well, I've got this fascinating invention and I'd now like to protect it. So the duty of the patent practitioner is then to understand that invention and to then assist the inventor in putting it down on paper and obtain a monopoly for that invention. So the inventor, what the government has said, and through policies and acts, is that the inventor is given a monopoly of 20 years on that invention, and to obtain the fruits from his invention. And if you think about certain pharmaceutical companies, they spend many years of research before they are ready to actually go to market and obtain the fruits of everything they've put into the research and etc. So the years of protection of that monopoly is 20 years. But in exchange, what happens is the inventor is given the monopoly of 20 years, but through the document that is prepared by the patent attorney in collaboration with the inventor, all the information is set out in the document describing the invention, the research, and the experiments that have taken place in order to come to this inventive idea. And the reason for that is, and where the exchange happens is, and the enrichment is, that another inventor will come along and he doesn't have to start from scratch. He can actually now pick up from where someone else has ended and continue with the research, and in that way one enriches the market and society, and we get new inventions within the different industries. And the aim of the patent practitioner is really to encapsulate the inventive idea, and to protect that idea for the inventor, bearing in mind the background of what the collaboration and the exchange is between society and the inventor. That's it in a nutshell.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry, Abigail, I just have a follow-up question. Shanaz, thank you for that very descriptive answer. I just want to have this follow-up question with regards to the exams. You said, okay, obviously you're going to become an attorney, you're going to write your board exams so that you can qualify with the Legal Practice Council. Is there a professional body for patent practitioners, or do they also belong, or do they also, how can I put this? Do they also belong under the umbrella of the law? So do they also belong to the professional body of legal practitioners, or is there a separate a professional body? And who offers the exams? Are the exams also given by the Legal Practice Council, or is it a separate professional body?
Yeah. So thanks, Sibusiso. So what happens is I sit on the patent examination board, and I chaired it for 3 years, but I still serve on the board. So I see students coming in and who are applying. Yeah, you've got to have the patent practitioner does answer to the LPC. So you are an admitted. You are admitted to the High Court, and what the rules that have been set by the LPC is what you as an attorney and patent practitioner, because you are a patent lawyer, you have to abide by that. Now there is a separate body, which is the Patent Examination Board, that falls under actually the Department of Trade and Industry. Initially, the patent practitioners exam sat under the South African Institute of Intellectual Property Law, and that was moved by the government. It was a strategic decision to move that away from the institute and to move it within the body of the Department of Trade and Industry. So the board just reports to the Department of Trade and Industry now, instead of reporting to the separate Institute of Intellectual Property Law. But as a patent practitioner, you have to abide to the rules of the LPC, but you also sit within the body of the patent practitioners, the South African Institute of Intellectual Property Law. So you've got the Patent Examination Board, and the students apply. Anyone wishing to apply and become a patent attorney would have to sit for the exam. So you would apply, send your application through to the the Patent Examination Board, and then the successful applicants will then write sit and write the examinations. And the requirements there, like I said, is a technical degree. You don't have to have your law degree as yet. Your technical degree is sufficient. But for those who have a law degree and want to pursue something within IP, if you've got you've got a matric certificate, you can apply for your trademark practitioner's exam. So you can consider doing that. So what you've got with the patent practitioner, you've got to write, you've got to write exams to pass to become to pass your law exams. And then in order to be an attorney, you've got to write the exams to be, your board exams to be admitted as an attorney. And then to be a patent practitioner, you've got to write exams to, through the Patent Examination Board to become a patent practitioner, to become a patent lawyer. So you can see it as a very specialist degree, which takes it to, your focus is really patents, or it's really trademarks or copyright or designs. And then so it's extra learning, very much like if you think about a doctor and they're starting out and they're a GP, but they do want to specialize in different facets of medical, the medical field, and they will choose different specialists, special subjects or to consider or to pursue. And very much with patent lawyers, we have specialized and that our focus is acutely patent law. And with patent law, we also do designs. The trademark practitioners, they do copyright, and they do trademarks. Yeah. Does that help, Sibusiso?
It does. Thank you. Thank you very much.
That was so insightful. I've learned so much, and I think we're all excited about the possibilities of IP law. So thank you so much for being so descriptive in your answer, and it's really some invaluable lessons there that you've given us. We have a question from our alumni, Thabo Magubane. Please can you unmute yourself?
Hi everyone. Hello,
Hi,
am I audible?
yes, you are audible.
Oh, okay, thanks. Firstly, I'd like to thank everyone for hosting such a wonderful event. My name is Thabo Magubane. I'm also a Subwell alumni. My question goes to Lebogang. But before I proceed, I'd like to give a bit of a background, really, as a person who's interested in, whose areas of interest and expertise are technological software development and innovation. So really, just to give a bit of a background, right now we have these companies or data consuming machines. For example, currently we have a development called a GPT-3 under the umbrella of artificial intelligence. What does it do really? It takes data to predict the outcome. But my question, or the focus of my question, goes to the application of this data. Whether or not is South Africa ready enough to handle such data? How can we make sure that South Africa guarantees that the use of data promotes inclusion? Whose data is being collected to predict the outcome or to create a correlation? So really, my question is, are we ready for that? Are we ready for such software applications? I don't know if it's posed correctly, but that's where I'm at right now. There's a lot on my mind. But yeah, that's what I wanted to ask from Lebogang, that really, by the look of things, since she works in this field, she thinks that we are ready for such development. Thank you.
Thank you, Thabo, for that question. It's a very interesting question, and I do think that we're developing in terms of, 4IR, we just started hopping onto 4IR now because COVID actually was a catalyst and forced us to start really thinking about the industrial revolution, to start thinking about robotics, to start thinking about digitizing companies, digitizing skills and digitizing. So I think we are on the way there. Are we ready? It's going to take a while because, like I said, a lot of countries were already in the fourth industrial revolution. And we were only talking about the fourth industrial revolution recently when people were already were already digitizing, and they were already having robotics and implementing artificial intelligence already in their organizations. So it's going to take a while. We're only implementing our data protection legislation next year, and that took 7 years. So it's going to take a while, and it's something that's a work in progress. And I think that we aren't ready as yet. But will we be ready? We will get there. It's a process. We're only starting to digitize our courts. Only now we're having AI in our courts, and it's still a thing. It's still something that people are battling with. It's still something that people don't want to do because they don't trust robotics. They don't trust AI, and we're only starting to do that slowly now. So I think maybe the next 5 or even 6 or 7 years, we will be ready for that and get used to AI and get used to robotics and get used to the systems that govern and protect our data and our information. I hope that answers your question.
Oh yeah, Lebogang, thank you so much. You correct, by the way. It's a process, right? I think it's really a process. And I think you're very much correct in the sense that COVID-19 was more like a catalyst. I like that. It was more like a catalyst to the realization of the need of this. But yeah, this was my concern really, of the readiness. Are we ready to absorb all of this? But I think the answer is really a process. I think one step at a time. But thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for your question.
Thanks.
Thank you, Thabo. Thank you, Labahang, as well. I mean, just to comment on you mentioning the digitalization of the courts, it's still something that we are slowly getting into, and it's so difficult, especially for the judiciary and like the judges and even like the councils that come and make submissions. It's still something that we're all grappling with, but we're finding our feet, and it's a progress.
Yeah.
Yes. Our president has a question. So after our president's question, we are going to take a 15-minute break. Or was it 5 minutes? I'm not too sure. PSG, is it 15 minutes or 5? Oh, it's a 5-minute break. So after our president's question, we'll take a 5-minute break and reconvene at 12:20. Okay, President?
Thank you, DP. So my question is a follow-up question. So I'm going to ask Ms. George. So it's related to the digitalization of the legal industry. So I want to know, as much as it's still early to ask how prepared should we be, but where does the digitalization of the legal fraternity leave legal practitioners? I mean, will we still be needed in the near future? Will a law degree still, have any effect? Or like Ms. Shanez has mentioned that it's important for you to have, a technological background for you to enter into the legal field if you want to specialize in technology. So should we now say that a legal degree is not enough? Should we also look into, getting educated with regards to technology?
Thank you very much for that question. I think, listen, tech is here and we need to embrace it. And we shouldn't be afraid of technology. And I think we shouldn't, there's always this debate of, oh, now that tech is here, does that mean it's going to take and replace jobs? And that's not, there are things that human beings do that technology cannot do. And we're talking about analytical skills. And the reason why we like law and the reason why we get into this career is because we have this analytical ability to think. And machines don't have that analytical ability to think. They don't think analytically, Machines are there to do jobs that we don't want to do, jobs that are mundane, and jobs that are unnecessary, so that we can do the hard work, so we can do the complex work, so we can do the thinking, so we can do the networking, so we can do the business development. Machines are not going to be able to assist with business development, with getting clients. They're not going to assist with even such things as mentoring. Soft skills are going to be needed. So I think it's going to be up to us to sharpen our soft skills, because machines aren't going to teach us. They don't have sympathy, they don't have empathy. And you still need that in the legal fraternity. You still need that as a lawyer. And I think what we need to do is sharpen our soft skills, work on our soft skills, work on our leadership development and our leadership skills, work on business development and being entrepreneurs. Because I think that even when you're a lawyer, you need the ability to be an entrepreneur and be able to think outside the box. Machines are not going to be able to do that. Machines will be our allies. That's what they will be. They'll be our allies in assisting us to do our work more efficient, and to show up quicker. So I think that we need to embrace technology, and we've got a long way, because there's also a debate of, okay, so if we embrace technology and we say technology needs to come into the legal fraternity, what does that mean? And digitizing courts, what does that mean for access to courts? Is there equal access to courts? Because we also know that we've got a data problem here. We know that not everyone has access to internet. Not everyone has access to data. So what does that mean? Does that mean not everyone is going to have equal access to the courts and equal access to law and justice? So we need to think about that, and we need to be the ones who drive those solutions and say, yes, we want digitization, but it needs to be equal. Everyone needs to be equal. Everyone needs to have fair access to courts. Everyone needs to have fair access to attorneys, to lawyers, and we're the ones that can think of how we can do that. So I think with technology, it's not there to replace us. It's just there to help us. It's an ally in helping us and making sure that we're efficient and making sure that we deliver and we're productive. And that's how we need to see it. It's not an enemy. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you so much. That was so insightful. And you have answered my question. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Lebogang. Yes, that was really insightful. We are going to have a break. We'll reconvene at 12:20, and then we'll continue with the Q&A session. Thank you, guys.
Okay. See you later.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. We are going to jump straight into our second session. The first session was just learning everything from IP to technology to human rights in the mining space. I mean, it's so amazing that we have such a vast experience, and we get insight into the different levels and the different aspects of the law. So I hope that you guys are encouraged as I am, and we're going to jump straight into the second session. And I see there's a hand by Luminary Shanaz. Would you kindly unmute yourself?
Hi, yes, we're back. I just wanted to follow up on my esteemed panelist, Bang's, was it Lebogang, that was talking about digitization. And I find it such an interesting field currently, and it's been plummeted, and you know, there's so much momentum brought about by the pandemic and the situations that we find ourselves in right now to consider digitization and to think of things differently. And a lot of the law firms are being forced to do that. And you know, if you think about lawyers, they're very draconian and old-fashioned in their ways, and they've had to be forced now to think of things differently. And digitization and looking at AI is something that is going to be there going forward. And we have to adapt. And you often hear the adage, adapt or die. And I think in this case, in order to be successful in your practice, you're going to have to consider digitization. It is already in practice being looked at in the legal fraternity, and how we can do things differently. For instance, if we consider the examinations, and this year we had the patent examinations, trademark examinations that we had to consider, and they've all been usually written in venues, and with the trademark examinations, they're now looking at doing that online, and this was the first year that they did online examinations. For the patent side, we didn't consider it was too short notice for us to consider online examination, and the logistics were just too much for us to really take on at this stage. So it was still very much written examinations, we just had different venues. So in the academic sphere as well, we've had to be forced to consider digitization. Within law firms, it is happening. If before, I mean, when I started as a candidate attorney, you had loads of files, volumes of files on your desk, you remember, and so much paper and diaries. It's something now of the past, and we now, everything is done digitally. on my desk, there isn't a file that's open. It's only the paper that I'm working on at the moment on the case that I'm busy with. So everything is done digitally. Our files are now moved from paper to electronic files. I see you nodding, Lebogang.
Yeah. I mean, just to add on that, because I was also thinking when I was a CA, like the office was just filled with files and arch lever files. And this year, every file that I'm talking about is on a cloud. Like we have digital rooms now and we share things on a cloud. So it's the thing of the past. And even that room that we used to go to in the High Court where you used to paginate, it will be interesting to see how it's going to look in a couple of years when they start digitizing now.
Absolutely. So that's exactly it. And all of us, and going forward, the young professionals, you simply have to look at embracing technology and learning more about technology to better your practice and how you will take it forward. It's an intricate part of the tools that you carry with you when you do practice. And even in the larger law firms now, we're looking at this consideration of AI. And there is the concern, and it was highlighted through the discussion that, is it going to replace having the people resource versus the AI resource? But the one, digitalization is here to stay. And the one way to consider looking at it is it's a value add that one gets. And like Lebogang said, it provides you with, it gives you more time to do other things, to focus on other things, to focus on marketing, to focus on growing your income base or your revenue through other avenues. So it's a very good tool to have, and one that you should consider how you can incorporate it within your practice and not be left behind in the draconian way of doing things. I don't think we can languish in what was. We have to take the step forward right now. Yeah. Thanks, but I find it very interesting. I do love this field as well.
I think also just to add on that, I think what technology also does is it levels the playing field. So small law firms can now compete with your big 5 law firms because now you have technology. So now the playing field is level and you're able to compete with them, and you're able to also compete for the same clients and for the same jobs. So I think that's what it does. And that's why I think it's important that everyone should embrace it, because it's not even, people look at it and say, but it's going to cost a lot of money for me to now get the type of software or the type of machinery, but it doesn't. There's different machinery, there's different software for your type of law firm. So you just need to embrace it so that you can also play and compete with the other big firms, because once machinery is there, there's no difference between a big firm and a small firm.
Yeah, true.
Thank you so much, Nabahang and Luminary Shanaz. I think one thing that this session is teaching us is to embrace technology. It's not there to replace us. It's not going to eradicate our field, but instead it's going to assist us, and it's going to make our jobs more effective moving forward. And we're able to deal with the real issues and not deal with the admin side of our field, because we know we have a lot of admin in the fraternity, but we're able to really just do the work. And flourish in that way. We have a question so I'll just take it from the chat. How does your current IP and patent law infrastructure protect South Africans from paying exorbitant amounts on vaccines, particularly in light of COVID-19? I saw that there was a question as well from the president, if you don't mind unmuting yourself.
My question was similar to DP's question. It's related to how the especially the African countries, how are they going to be protected with regards to vaccination. I mean, we understand that the pandemic has taken a toll on all the countries, and you would find that countries are desperate, to find a cure to the virus. So how do we make sure that most especially African countries will be protected from being extorted? And how do we make sure that, there were news earlier on that Madagascar has found a vaccination, and not much attention was paid to that. So I'd like to understand how, patent law works with regards to making sure that this the vaccination that is required for this particular, virus. What could be the reason why the rumors to Madagascar finding the cure not being paid attention to?
There's a question from DSG. I'm not too sure who it's directed towards, but I think he will say once he unmutes himself.
Thank you, Abigail. All right, I have a question to Shanaz. Sorry, I'm not picking on you. I hope you don't think I'm picking on you. So I got admitted in May as an attorney, and in my first meeting with the office, thank you. In my first meeting with the office manager, she's like, all right, Sibusiso, you've been admitted now and the firm's taking you on. And, there's certain things that you must do to get to the top. And one of the things she says is your business development. And this was a new thing for me, I have to be honest. She says now you have to bring clients to get to the top, you have to now, okay, obviously when I was a candidate, I was looking at the finances of things, but not actually bringing in the clients. And our financial director was also there, and he says you've got to also make sure that your clients pay, and they pay on time. So I just want to ask you about that, because I know you're a partner, and partners are usually very, they're usually on top of things in terms of business development and making sure that we get clients and so forth, and the marketing. It's usually, ultimately, it's a responsibility of the partners to make sure that the firm grows. And I just want to ask you, how do we, as younger practitioners and aspirant legal practitioners, how do we do this thing of business development? How do we get the clients? Because obviously we're not trained to do that when we do our LLB. And, we don't do marketing, but we have to put ourselves out there. Not only that, the Legal Practice Council makes sure that we don't tout. So you're not going to go out and tell people, leave him, come to me. So how do you do it as a legal practitioner? How do you grow yourself in terms of business development? Thank you.
Thanks, Sibusiso. Well, it's a difficult one to answer. I don't think there's one answer for that. And people that are more skilled in this avenue can actually give maybe able to give you a better response. But let me attempt. So I was also, in your place and had to work my way up, and from being a candidate attorney, and then we have the level associate, and then senior associate, and then partner, and it's a very important skill in any business and in any practice to be able to bring work in, and you have to learn it sometime. And some people are more adept to being to having that skill, to carving that skill, and are just, some of them are just natural at it, right? There are some. And I think they like to term themselves as rainmakers. We've heard about rainmakers, where they're so quick to in social gatherings, they'll meet up with people they don't know, and soon enough, they'll be a partner, they'll be a client of the firm, and those are your very good rainmakers who are able to make things happen. But even for those who are non-rainmakers and doesn't come naturally, it is a skill that you have to learn, and the earlier you learn it, the better it's going to be for you in the long run. And how you do it is because you have to, now you're in a position where you have to prove yourself. They're telling you, well, this business development, start thinking of how you're going to bring clients in. And they don't tell you how to do this. No one tells you how to do it. And I think you have to learn the skills that you've got within your disposition, within your personality. Some of us are very good at having these conversations, having cold calls to people and saying, can we meet and discuss and see whether we can, if there's some value we can add to your business. So those are the cold calls that one can make. And then there's other things, so slowly wetting your feet in as with places that you are familiar with, whether it is, like for me, I've spent so much time at the university, so that after 8 years, the lecturers were like colleagues. So I could call them up and say, can I give a lecture and just talk to them about patents. And you start, and I'm talking to the law, to students who are going to be lawyers, aspirant lawyers, and who are going to have practices at some point. So they're going to know you, and when they do need you, they're going to call up on you. So that's an indirect way of just getting your feet wet, and also proving yourself that you're being proactive, you're doing something. You're not just waiting there for something to happen and for your principal to be sending you work. All of us need to find ways and avenues to actually bring in the work and grow the revenue, grow the client base, and it's a challenge. It is a challenge for those that it doesn't come naturally to, but you've got to learn it and use the skills that you have. My advice is to start with places that you are comfortable with, have meetings, do presentations, so people get to know you. And from there, you start having the conversations. It might, depending on the situation, it might not be called for to have just a discussion like, yes, I'm a patent attorney, he's going to do your work. That's just not going to fly. You've got to find a different way that people get to know you, because people don't buy into firms, they buy into people, and they buy into relationships. So once they know who Sibusiso is, and well, he's a reliable guy, great integrity, I know he's going to do a good job, you're going to call on him for work. So it's about, through that big word of business development, it's really about developing yourself and acquiring those skills. All of us, all candidate attorneys have to go through that measure and prove your worth. What can you bring? What can you bring to the firm? How do you add value to the firm? And it might be that, one day you have a firm and there's 10 of you there, and some may be better rainmakers than others, and you may be like decide, oh well, my skills are actually better honed in a different avenue, and let me focus on the internal aspects of the business, while the guys who are, the others who are very good at bringing work in, let them be the rainmaker with that, and then you kind of divide things up. But starting out early, you have to acquire all the skills in your toolbox in order for you to become the best attorney that you can be, and that you can prove your worth and prove your value. And being proactive is part of that. Also, when it comes, because you're a candidate attorney or an associate, a junior, and you're not sure where the lines are drawn, and you don't want to cross boundaries and then find out that you're in hot water, is to also dip into the knowledge of the firm where you see, oh, he's very good at actually bringing clients in. How does he do it? And then have a conversation and say, I've got this idea. Do you think it's a good idea for me? And then you've got a little bit of support as well within the structure that you're working in. Everybody's structure is a little bit different. And one day you might decide to have your own law firm, and you will need to have that skill and know, even though you're not implementing the skill and someone else might be better, you need to know how it works and what the person needs to do, the energy that you need to put into that. There are other activities, sometimes the firms have that, which are marketing activities, and those are good to get involved with. If there's someone who's very good at bringing clients inside, go to them and say, would you mind if I actually tag along so I can see how it progresses, and then you learn. But you've got to learn. It's a nice challenge. It's not an impossible challenge. Right. Hope that's helpful.
Thank you. Thank you, Louise. Thank you.
Such invaluable advice. Thank you so much for that. And it's we sometimes tend to forget, but it is relationship that draws people in. It's very, very insightful. Thank you so much, Luminations, for that. We have a question from Thabang, as well as Advocate Tari. So maybe I think she went first. So maybe Advocate Aisha, do you want to unmute yourself, please?
Oh, I don't have a question. No, I think there was a Matt in the question session that has a question. Oh, yes. Okay. Okay, we'll move on to that. So it's in the chat, and it says, this is directed to Lebogang. It says, please unpack more on the topic of COVID-19 and how it fast-tracked much of the private sector's move to online and remote digital workflows and models. To what extent does existing legislature address the digital divide in our society? And I think this is something that you touched on a bit earlier, Lebogang.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Matt. The legislature does not address the digital divide, and I think that is the problem. And we need to, because COVID-19 happened to us and was something that we do not expect to happen, there's a lot of legislation that was hanging in the balance, like the cyber crimes bill, which only in July they wanted to push it so that it could be signed into law because of all the hacking and everything that's been happening with Experian, and everything that's also been happening with people working from home and being hacked. And some people were even using their personal computers and processes. There was not enough time for companies to put processes in place to ensure that hacking doesn't happen, or to ensure that there's systems in place so that hacking doesn't happen. So because COVID-19 happened and no one expected it, there's a lot of legislation that obviously was in the balance, and people were just pushing for it to be signed into law. So we're still trying to get the Cyber Bill's Crime Act to be signed into law. POPI's also only next year will it be fully effective. And I think that COVID-19 has just forced us to put our ducks in a row and to just make sure that, because technology and the digital world moves so quickly and at such a crazy speed, we also need to make sure that our laws and our regulations and legislation are up to date and are up to speed and are not rigid and can be amended as fast and as quickly as the digital age is moving. And in terms of the ICT infrastructure, we don't have that ICT infrastructure. I mean, even that's why there was also concern about court and access to court, and whether it's going to be equal access to court, and whether there's really going to be any justice, because the infrastructure does not really support everyone. It's for people that have the infrastructure, or people that have the data, and people that have access to internet. And not everyone in this country has access to internet. So there will be unequal access to justice and some people not even have any access to justice at all. So we need to ensure that those are put into place. We need to ensure that our ICT structures are put into place. We need to ensure that our legislation is robust and it's agile, and we need to ensure that the people that are putting it into place understand technology and understand the digital unequalness that is happening in the country. And we do not apply a system that works in China, because China, they have access to these infrastructures. So it should not be a system that we're adopting in Europe or adopting in Asia. It should be a system that speaks to our unequal society.
That's so true, because, you know, systems are just put in place just because they work abroad and they think that, you know, just placing it here, it's going to work, you know, whereas we are such a different context, you know, and even just access to internet, access to data, it's such a big problem. So they should really just advance it to cater for us and cater for our country in Africa. Absolutely. We have a question from Thabang. Thabang, would you still like to ask your question?
Hi, yes, Abby, thank you. I think it's more sort of comment and adding to both what my esteemed panelists have touched on, but I'd like to address what, firstly, just two things, sorry. Firstly, what Shanaz was mentioning around, as lawyers, you know, the softer skills. Of course, we've been also talking about, Lebogang mentioned earlier, you know, what it means, you know, with the advent of AI and where the need for attorneys still remains. You know, she spoke about business development. And one of the things that I think are so invaluable, even as still a, you know, budding sort of professional in this space, and that you're very right, we were never really taught at university. The textbooks on your cases and whatnot, and the legislation don't highlight the softer skills that you'll require. And I think that's what the beauty of practice and being sort of in the run of the mill of what it is to either be in an actual law firm or in an advisory space like I'm in, is the softer skills. These are things that nobody can teach you, but that you sort of go on a journey to learn. And I think these are things that, you know, part of the discussion about the relevance of attorneys going forward is also a very big part of, you know, Lebogang mentioned empathy, sympathy. You know, I don't know how many times, you know, we're meant to be trusted legal advisors. I find myself a lot in engagements or contract negotiations with clients, or even, you know, where they are backing and forthing on terms, and really what they want from you is an assurance that you understand their problem, that you're holding their hand through it. A lot of it is actually not legal, funny enough. And I said to my boss the other day, it's amazing the types of things that you actually find yourself doing, which is a little bit different from what you thought you would be doing when you're still studying. So yeah, I think also coming in with the open-mindedness, you know, a lot of the time attorneys, I think we've got this beautiful shiny degree, and, you know, we've done everything, we've ticked the boxes, you know, but we think that's the end of the learning process. I think it's just the beginning. You've just been given the foundations, you know, to help you. But a lot of what you will learn will be in the sort of practice of things, including how to handle people. As mentioned earlier, it's your relationships that are going to matter so much. It's how you address people. It's how available you are. It's, you know, your basic professionalism. These are all valuable things, and it's what people remember when they say, I think I know somebody who can help with this. She helped me once before. He helped me once before. So yeah, just really not neglecting that aspect and still being open and I think humble enough to still learn. And you can even learn from the people you work with, even in the organization, your partners, your other associates. I was shocked during articles that I was learning quite a lot, even from the administrative staff, the guys in collections and stuff, who really guided me on so much of what I really learned in that time. And I've used a lot of that even as an admitted attorney, in a different space, but it's the softer skills, it's the ways, you know, the little things, and hence I say the humility to be open to learn from absolutely everyone in your environment. And then the second thing I wanted to touch on is just around, you know, tech. And I know we've been talking a lot about that, and it's very good, because as practitioners, that's what we're concerned with. We want to know how all of this is going to unfold, and it's beautiful. But I want us to also touch back on a little bit about what we sort of touched on at the beginning. You know, so part of the work that we do is a lot about inclusivity, you know, socioeconomic inclusivity. And I think what for IR and, you know, industrialization in this sense is also showing us that we spoke about the digital divide. There are serious, disparities within our various contexts across the world. And access is one of the biggest things even our constitution focuses on. Access, securing people's rights of access to various things. It doesn't ensure that everyone will be given education, water, etc., but it says you have to create the basic ability for a person to access something. And I think it's so important that when we go into even our normal day-to-day engagements, we're now operating in a space where the social, the business, the legislative are all sort of interlinked. Gone are the days where a corporate can just decide to do something without considering the social impact of what a decision will be made. Big corporates are seeing this left and right. They've burnt their fingers, some of them. I don't even have to go too far. We've just had some cases a few years ago. I think H&M was one of them, completely separate industry. One little advert that was just not considering the impact it'll have, and that's from a marketing business perspective. But you see the failure of people to appreciate the context they operate in. Lebohang mentioned this, the importance of acknowledging what context are you operating in. You cannot go and take something that has been applied in a European country, which may have a very different social and economic setup, and then want to bring it to South Africa, one of the most unequal societies in the world, and think we're just going to be okay with a copy and paste. So it's really important, I think, as practitioners to get into the mindset of thinking holistically about even the work we do. When you're advising, when you're litigating, whatever it is that you're doing, there's a bigger structure that we are feeding into, and so part of the challenge, I think, for IR has just brought that closer. Now we are much more closer on the lines of, is this acceptable? Is this ethical? Is this something that we should be maybe just revising how we've done it in the past? Who does it exclude? Who does it include? And even our systems will have to think about that. I like the question about whose data is being used and how much say do they have in terms of how their data is used. Sure, if you're privileged and you're able to say and understand what it is, great for you. But what about those in the communities, in the context that don't have that access and don't get to say how their data is used? Are we just going to, not consider their rights in that respect? So yeah, I think one of the pushes that 4IR is bringing for even practitioners is just, are we aware of the social economic context we're operating in, and when we do our work, are we careful of sort of balancing those elements? So yeah, just to add on to those points.
Thank you, Thabang. Thank you for that. Very insightful, and just how you're bringing both worlds together. We have a question from Lerato. So I see we literally have like 5 minutes left. So we're going to take the last two questions from Lerato and Thabo, and then we're going to call on the SG, who's going to do the closing and summation for us. Lerato, please could you unmute yourself?
Thank you. So it's not really a question. It's more of a comment. And Thabang actually outlined it very nicely, and I wanted to comment about the digital divide. So the little that I know about ICT laws is that we have legislation in place. So for instance, you have the Electronic Communications Act, which requires ICASA to regulate, which requires USASA to assist government in implementing its objectives towards bridging the digital divide, but they just don't do it, So I think there is some legislation there that can be used and that has been used, that should have been used, but it's just the implementation thereof that has been delayed. And back to what Thabang said again, she spoke about access. The cost of data is it's just unmanageable for our communities. If for instance we want to have a platform like this on Zoom or on Teams to speak to students who are in a village somewhere, the biggest obstacle is that they will not be able to access because they do not have data. So if you want to make a difference, you must also have a budget for that as well. So if you want to talk to 10 students, you must buy them data. You must make sure that they go to probably kilometers to a library to access a computer where they will all sit and listen to what you're saying. So we have a long way to go with digital divide, and it's unfortunate because it's really human beings that are not doing what they're supposed to be doing in most of the instances. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for your comment, Lerato. Thank you so much for your comment. We're going to take one more question from Thabo, and then we're going to close. Thabo?
Oh, hi. Am I audible?
Yes, you are. You can proceed.
Oh, thanks. My question is actually a follow-up question from the question that was raised by Mr. Mahlangu, about branding, the ability to bring business. My question really is, when should one start having that approach to things, having that approach of creating reliable relationships or quality relationship that will later on add up to maybe a client practitioner relationship, sort of? Because as with me, I'm still an undergrad, so I've been thinking about this, and I've been trying to do this, like self-marketing, self-brand and so forth and so on. But at some point I feel as if maybe I'm rushing myself, maybe I'm stressing myself. I don't know whether is it the right moment to also verticalize, to find an area of expertise and kind of be vertical on it and be sure with it. I'm at the point whereby I'm quite confused whether I'm rushing things or maybe at a later stage it will pay off. And also, if Shanaz will also add on to that, since she responded to that question of when should one start, in fact, beginning with the process of having the ability to communicate with people, to sell yourself, and also to understand clients, really, because it's all about business out there. It's not really about whether or not you know the law. Yes, you know the law, but do you have the ability to maintain relationships, quality relationships? I don't know if my question is understandable though. Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks, Thabo. Thanks for being curious. It's very good to be curious. That's something that with your scientific mind, you always think of being curious, and so I quite enjoy that. Yeah, and I do encourage it. So it's very interesting that you've raised the question that you're an undergrad, and think about Sibusiso's question, where he's already being approached, that he's now got to look at business development. So in a one way, it's actually a good signal to Sibusiso that this is the right time to be looking at it, because someone's now approached you about it, right? So you're not in that dilemma. Whereas Thabo is in the place of, I'm an undergrad now, do I consider these relationships and that I need to bring in business at some point? And relationships are always important. So, and one should always keep good relationships with another, and just out of goodness, really. And someday you may need that person, or the other way around. And so that happens. That happens daily. It's not something that you have to work on so much right now. And my thinking and my guidance would be that when you're an undergrad, what your focus should be is on obtaining your degree and striving for that. If you've got extra time to have those relationships and have those discussions, that's very nice. That's all good. It will all add up in the end. But you can't rise up and rise through things and part if you don't have your technical expertise. So that is your most important fundamental tool, is to have your degree first. Once you have that, it allows you, and someone said that's when doors start opening, or you can start knocking on doors. And then once you find yourself inside of a structure of, be it a law firm, corporate, some organization, and you've got to practice your legal thinking and skills that you've acquired at university, that's when you start looking at all the other things that you could start adding into your toolbox. And it's something that I always harp on, is that you've got a toolbox, and now what do you add to it? And you never stop adding things to your toolbox. You're always learning about new things, new acts that are being redrafted, being amended. You constantly have to continue learning. And now with digitization, we've got to also learn about that, how to facilitate that into our daily working. And so I think, you said you were stressed. I don't think you should stress about it at this stage. It's early. It's premature to be too stressed about it. And your energy should be focused on getting your undergrad degree. Focus on sending out your applications once you're at the right stage, and finding where you want to specialize in what. And that's the other thing that might still come through in your thinking, is now what do I do? What part of law do I consider? For me, I fell into law and stumbled into it, but there are different aspects of law, even when you're in a general law firm. And how do you navigate through that and learn all the skills that's needed in the different fields, and then decide this is the one that I'm focused on. I can bet there's many lawyers out there that where they started off is not where they are today. They've progressed, they've learned, and this is actually where I would like to specialize in. So my guidance from the little information that you've given me is to focus on your technical degree, getting admitted, and once you're in that in the structure of a firm or organization, to then consider the skills and take it from there. I hope that helps, Thabo.
Yes. In fact, it helps. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It gives some sort of clarity in certain matters. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Thank you so much, Shanaz, and thank you to just all the panelists today. The conversation was so insightful. We appreciate the engagement and all the questions that were asked. And I want to hand over to SG, who's gonna do the summation and close off the session for us.
Thank you, Madam President. But I think DSG had something to say. Just WhatsApp me first before he asked me to. Yeah, just wanted to comment first before I chose.
Oh, okay, sure. SG.
Thanks, SG. I just wanted to comment quickly on the thing that Thabo mentioned. It's something that actually a lot of aspirant legal practitioners are not told before they start with their articles. As a candidate attorney, you're not allowed to do any other business besides that of a candidate attorney. And we've received a lot of instructions where we had to oppose applications for admission because someone is a director of a company or he's running a business while he's doing his articles. It's actually not allowed, and it's in the rules. So although you should work on building relationships and get yourself known out there, you must be careful when you do your articles. I know pupils as well who are working towards becoming an advocate. You're not supposed to do anything else except that of a pupil or an advocate. So we should just bear that in mind. If you are going to be a legal practitioner, when you do your training, your practical vocational training, you're not supposed to engage in any other business. I just wanted to quickly just mention that. And thanks to our panelists. Over to you, SG. Thanks to you as well.
Thank you so much, GSG. If I remember carefully, on your point, DSG, I'm subject to correction, but I think if you do have any business interest, you are supposed to disclose to the LPC of such dealings so that you may be protected. I think I remember something similar to that. I'm subject to correction, of course.
Yes. Sorry. Yes, SG, that is correct. You are supposed to disclosed to the Legal Practice Council. But it's not only disclosing, that's actually case law that you disclose and they must approve. And the assessment that they do is to make sure that what you're doing is not going to interfere with your training, with your practical vocational training. So they first going to do the assessment and check whether you might be disturbed while you're doing the other work. But yes, you are correct. Yeah.
Oh, DSG, thank you so much for the comment. My apologies to interrupt, SG. Yeah, I appreciate the comment because right now I'm currently working on a startup with my team, a tech startup. So yeah, I mean, I don't know how I forgot to ask that question. Yeah, I think I have to work through that because what you have raised right now, it's kind of brought me into a different perspective of things, and some of the things I have to reconsider. But yeah, thank you so much, man. Thanks.
Sorry, if I can make a point on that. I think it's crucial that we know that you may be able to engage in businesses, provided they do not interfere. Like that has been corrected now. So you have to get permission from the LPC and even at the Bar Council. It doesn't preclude you necessarily from being a director in the company. You have to disclose upfront. You have to. So the idea in both pupillage and in being a candidate attorney is that your focus, as has been corrected now by Sibusiso, is that the focus of your practice or your learnings is not interrupted by your business. So they don't want a person going out and doing business, and coming up halfway doing your articles and, I don't have time for this, and running away and going to do your business. So you can be a director, but you need to disclose this upfront. And if the LPC says that, look, you cannot, this is going to interfere, then you need to decide. So I think the first port of call would be to get permission. Similarly, if you're doing your pupillage at the bar.
Yeah. No, thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. I mean,
so I don't want you to cut your entrepreneurship.
I mean, yeah, it was kind of scary on that perspective. I was like, okay, how do I cut the ties now? Because I've been like in this.
No. I think what you do is that you do a full disclosure and you get specific permission and make sure that if it is a borderline issue, that you get that permission in writing.
No, I fully understand. Thank you so much for the contributions. Understanding. And thank you so much, DSG and SG.
You're welcome, Thabo. So let's just
I see that our SG is having technical issues. I'm not sure if DSG or I should proceed with the closing, or DSG, would you like to proceed with that?
Yes. All right. I'll proceed. There we go. SG, it seems like you are back.
Yeah, sorry, I got a call. Yes, as I was saying, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, SG.
Sorry, my connection is being interrupted by a phone call. Anyway, as I was saying that we would like to thank all the panelists for your time and your efforts. I mean, it's always insightful, even on a Saturday, to just come and get as much knowledge as you can, because it's very essential. So the points that were mostly touched on were human rights, technology and accessibility, the business and relationships, networking, amongst others. So essentially, if we look at this from a young person's perspective, these are all factors that contribute to self-growth and awareness. And really, would really like to thank Sebwell MPC for giving us such a platform as young people to expose ourselves to such, you know, we don't have to learn 5 years down the line of something that we could have learned today. So because of such platforms, we are able to be engageful and insightful and, you know, grow at such a young age. And yeah, so really I'd like to thank everyone. I'd like to thank the hostess, Madam DP, and also the DSG, the co-host. Really, I'd like to appreciate both of you for your time. I'd like to appreciate the EXCO for their efforts, not only with this program, but their consistency with delivering reputable programs throughout. Advocate Aisha and Advocate Baba, you have been, you know, figures to us that we can always be able to confide in you whenever we need your assistance. You have never shied away. I mean, just an example was this week, we were supposed to have this webinar on Microsoft Teams, but because of technical errors, we had to now change to Zoom, and it was yesterday. And you guys were able to just come up and assist us right away to prevent a disaster. So we really appreciate that. We appreciate your availability. We appreciate that you are always with us no matter what. And yeah, we really do appreciate your time. The attorneys and advocates that are joining us, thank you so much for your time as well. We would really like to get you guys on board as well to assist the students and the young legal practitioners, because mentorship to a young person means a lot. I mean, for me, it has been, you know, something that has opened my mind at such a young age. Currently, as a candidate soon to be admitted, mentorship has allowed me to think outside the box than to be confined to a certain standard of doing things. So really, your mentorship will really be a great assistance to all of us. And let me not be long. Really, thank you for your time. Thank you for your data or Wi-Fi usage. And thank you that you're always there for us. And see you again soon. Hopefully, we will have another event just before the year closes. So, really appreciate that this think tank is able to expose us to so much in such a short period of time. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Okay, that brings us to the end of the program. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for joining in. And we hope to see everybody else soon.
Okay. Session's ended. Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.